The restaurant was as crowded as ever. Laughter, the clinking of plates, and calls for orders from the kitchen echoed through the air. But Michael's attention was fixed on only one thing: waitress Jenna's strange behavior. Her hands were trembling as she took orders, and her eyes kept zoning out. She tried to smile at the customers, but the sadness on her face made it impossible. It was as if something was breaking her from the inside, yet no one seemed to notice. Michael paused for a moment. A voice inside him whispered, "This girl is struggling with something." He couldn't wait any longer. He got up from his seat, walked over to Jenna, and quietly asked, "Are you okay?" And in that moment, as Jenna's eyes filled with tears, Michael felt like he was about to regret asking. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Michael sat in one of his chain restaurants, blending in like an ordinary customer while quietly observing how things were running. With these regular undercover visits, he aimed to assess employee morale, service quality, and any operational shortcomings. But that day something different caught his attention. A waitress named Jenna seemed unusually uneasy. She kept wiping her hands on her apron, got distracted while taking orders, and although she tried to smile at the customers, the sadness in her eyes gave her away. Her movements were tense, as if her mind was somewhere else entirely. With years of experience in the business, Michael could tell this wasn't just ordinary exhaustion. Something was definitely wrong. After silently observing Jenna for a while, Michael decided to approach her at the right moment. Instead of making up an excuse, he thought it would be more effective to be direct yet gentle. He quietly stepped closer as Jenna busied herself organizing orders at the counter. Leaning in slightly with a warm, friendly smile, he asked, "Is everything okay? You seem a bit distracted today." His tone was soft, but his curiosity was evident. Jenna hesitated for a moment. It was as if she was trying to pull herself out of her thoughts. She blinked a few times and lifted her head with a forced smile, but the worry on her face hadn't faded. Jenna instinctively tried to say, "Yeah, I'm fine," but her voice wavered. The words hung in the air, sounding unconvincing, like an echo with no weight behind it. She bit her lip, averted her gaze, and clenched the edges of her apron. But the sincerity in Michael's eyes wouldn't let her brush it off with a fake smile. The emotions she had been holding back started to spill out in the silence. Her shoulders slumped slightly, her breathing became unsteady, and finally tears began streaming down her cheeks. As the knot in her throat loosened, she whispered in a trembling voice, "I'm sorry." Her voice was filled with helplessness, as if a burden she had carried for so long had finally surfaced in her most vulnerable moment. Without a moment's hesitation, Michael gently pulled a nearby chair for Jenna. There was no judgment in his eyes, only genuine understanding and patience. In a soft voice he said, "What's wrong, Jenna? If you want to talk, I'm here to listen." His tone was reassuring, not pressuring her but making it clear that he was ready to hear her out. Jenna took a deep breath, as if trying to lift the weight pressing on her chest. She ran her fingers along the edge of her apron, then lowered her gaze to the floor before finally speaking. "Everything has been piling up these past few months," she said, her voice weary, heavy with emotion she had been holding in. "My mom is sick and the hospital bills are overwhelming. I'm taking care of my younger sibling, trying to keep up with the bills, and sometimes it just feels like no matter how hard I try, it's never enough." Her last words lingered in the air, a silent echo of helplessness. Her eyes welled up again, but this time, it wasn't just from sadness, it was also from the relief of finally letting it out. Michael could feel the weight behind Jenna's words. She wasn't just an employee, she was a young woman carrying the burden of life on her shoulders, fighting against helplessness. The fact that she had been struggling with all of this alone deeply affected him. He took a deep breath and looked into Jenna's eyes. Wanting to reassure her, he spoke in a soft but firm voice, "Why didn't you tell anyone? We're a team, Jenna. Asking for help isn't a weakness. You can get support, you should get support." His words were genuine and determined, as if he wanted her to truly understand that she wasn't alone. Would this outstretched hand be enough to ease even a fraction of the emotion she had been holding inside? Jenna shook her head slightly, her gaze dropping to the floor as her voice faded into a whisper. "I didn't want to be a burden. And I was afraid of losing my job." The vulnerability in her words tugged at Michael's heart. He could see how hard she was trying to be strong, but at the same time, how exhausted she had become. He studied the worry on her face for a quiet moment before gently nodding, offering her reassurance. "You matter to us, Jenna. You're not alone," he said, his voice calm and sincere. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Michael called Jenna over. Taking a deep breath, he finally revealed his true identity. At first, Jenna struggled to process his words, her eyes widened, and her breathing became unsteady. The moment she realized she was standing in front of her boss, shock gave way to a different emotion. And when she finally understood that all her fears and worries had been for nothing, tears once again streamed down her cheeks. But this time they weren't out of fear. They were out of relief. The next day, a warm sense of solidarity spread among the restaurant staff. Under Michael's leadership, the company set up a support fund for Jenna's family. As soon as the employees heard about it, they came together without hesitation, some contributing small donations, others taking on extra shifts to help. For the first time in a long while, Jenna no longer felt alone. But for Michael, this wasn't enough. After seeing her dedication and hard work, he knew he had to do more for her future. At the end of the day, he called Jenna into his office, looking her in the eyes with a smile. "You're truly great at what you do and you deserve more," he said. "I'm promoting you to a higher position. And on top of that, the company will cover your education expenses. You don't have to worry about your future anymore." Jenna's eyes welled up with tears once again, but this time not from sadness. It was the overwhelming joy of finally being seen, valued, and given a chance she had never dared to hope for. Jenna never forgot that day. Knowing she wasn't alone, realizing that someone truly cared about her, had changed her life completely. She was no longer just working to make ends meet, she could now look toward the future with hope, feeling stronger and more valued than ever before. This experience wasn't just life-changing for Jenna, it became an unforgettable lesson for everyone at the restaurant. They all realized that their job wasn't just about taking orders and serving food, it was about teamwork, support, and the true meaning of belonging. But most importantly, thanks to Michael's actions, a powerful message was sent. True leadership isn't just about running a business, it's about making a difference in people's lives. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.